Like the fire, feel the beat. Today Gridiron can't be beat. Nick your knee and bring the heat. Brad's the MVP elite. From the outback through the field, we got tackles hard to steal. Catch the passes, make it real. Gridiron warriors never kneel. Good day, Gridiron. Down under and beyond. Good day, Gridiron. Yeah, the podcast come on strong.
G'day Aussie Gridiron fans and welcome to the Gday Gridiron podcast, brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network, Australia's home of NFL, fantasy football and local gridiron content. It was a bumper week 7 of games with some huge matchups, some of which are definite game of the year candidates, hint hint Vikings Lions. And we're back this week with some news from all around the league. We'll check in with Gday AI for the top 5 storylines so far this week. And then we'll preview 4 games we are absolutely looking forward to in week 8. And Brad, you better believe one of those games will be your Cowboys versus Nick's 49ers.
Oh, I can't wait. 2 pathetic teams battling it out for mediocrity. It's a match made in heaven. Yeah, so we'll spend plenty of time on that. But we've got some really good games, and just like you said, we're coming off some really good games as well. So it is a great time to be an NFL fan.
It certainly is. Battle of the skid marks, Nick.
Almost. It could be almost. I mean, it could be like when the Giants play the Panthers in Germany. God. Anyway.
No, come on now. It's not that bad.
I mean, considering our outs and Dallas, so let's leave it at that. We're starting early.
You say that like it's an STI. Dallas.
Like it's
Starting
an
early. You got to start early.
Oh, them boys aren't no STI. What are we talking about here?
I think they're getting the STI.
They're getting the STI. A few of them might have had the STI.
It's not the Cowboys of the '90s. Michael Irvin is not there slinging his thing around. So.
Not CD Lamb.
Oh gosh.
No, yeah. Well, we don't know about that. We won't talk about that either, though. All right. We better get moving before we get too blue on this show. News.
Please.
There's been some news this week that has dropped from around the league, as I said. So let's start at the top with a couple of trades. Let's first talk about the big trade that happened this week. DeAndre Hopkins was traded from the Tennessee Titans to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's right, them Chiefs, in exchange for a conditional 5th-round pick in the 2025 draft. Stipulation on this is that if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl and Hopkins plays at least 60% of the regular season snaps to go, the pick will upgrade to a 4th. Big pickup, Nick, for Kansas City when they very, very much need some wide receiver help.
Oh, yeah. And they've been doing it every year for the last few years now. So they have a stipulation where they bring on any receiver and they say, hey, you want to play one of the most important parts in the Super Bowl? Come on. And they get them from pennies on the fucking dollar. Every year, for fuck's sake. So, oh yeah, it's nothing from what we haven't seen in the past. So, nothing will change there. They'll just keep rolling, keep going through everyone.
Yeah, that wasn't like spoken by a scornful 49ers fan at all, who's still reeling from a Super Bowl loss.
I told you to sell the car. I hope this time you all sold the car. You should have learned from Brad against Detroit. Now, once bitten, twice shy.
You've both done that in consecutive weeks now, and I don't know whether I should tell you to sell the car on a Vikings game or not, or whether it'll just go to complete shit on all of us. Or we could be making a lot of money, Brad.
We could.
We could be.
I personally I like this trade, the Hopkins trade for everybody. Just in the sense of Hopkins doesn't get open, like that's just not his style. But I think it marries. He bodies people out and he makes the catch. He's done that his whole career. I think it marries really well though with the accuracy of Mahomes, and I think you're going to really once those guys get a rhythm, you're going to see Mahomes' numbers increase quite a bit, and
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be really, really good. The thing about Hopkins is he catches everything in his catch radius. He
Mm.
has like one of the, I think the fourth lowest drop percentages in the NFL for receivers, and the Chiefs are like the highest drop percentage, as we all know. They just drop tons of balls. So I think it's a great match, and in Tennessee you got something. You weren't going anywhere anyway, so you got something for it. So yeah, it's a good trade in my opinion.
That's true. Very true. The other big trade that the Tennessee Titans have seemed to do, which is just offloading guys now, apparently, but not quite. Ernest Jones, the fourth linebacker, was traded from Tennessee Titans to the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle Seahawks sent back linebacker Jerome Baker along with a fourth-round pick in 2025, and that the pick backwards is because Jerome Baker actually got a 3-year, $39 million contract this offseason from the Seahawks. So you have to imagine that fourth-round pick is basically because the Titans are going to pick up his contract along with those players. A little bit of a player swap, Brad. Linebacker for linebacker, they might fit the various schemes a little bit better. Jerome Baker seemed to struggle a bit with the Seahawks, and he might fit in a lot better with the sort of bully ball that Titans seem to like to play.
Yeah, I think you've said it, and we talked a little bit about it in the green room, in the sense of the Seahawks have just accepted the fact that the Baker thing is not working. Apparently, he was hurt in the preseason. He starts the game. He was able to start the season, and everything, but it just hasn't worked out like what they wanted. And so Jones coming into the Seahawks is more of a run stuffer, and that's what the Seahawks need. So again, I think it's a good fit for everybody.
Yep. Backup QB news from around the league. We wouldn't usually talk about it, but it has been interesting just with a few injuries to QB1s in a few teams this week. The Raiders picked up Desmond Ridder from Arizona's practice squad due to Aidan O'Connell going on IR with a broken thumb. Minshew came into that game after Aidan O'Connell started and immediately threw 3 picks. So it's probably going from bad to worse at the moment for the Raiders. I wonder whether we get to see Desmond Ridder starting there at some point. It seems like the coach doesn't really like our boy Gardner Minshew too much. The Cleveland Browns signed none other than Patriots hero Bailey Zappi, who was on the Chiefs practice squad of late. Due to injuries to both Deshaun Watson, who went out with a season, possibly career-ending injury with an Achilles tear, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who came in to replace him and then ended up with a broken thumb as well. So the Browns have signed Bailey Zappi. At the moment, they have said that Jameis Winston will be starting this week, but it does seem like Jameis Winston and Kevin Stefanski seem to have something going on where Stefanski doesn't want to play him at all. So can only imagine that we'll see Bailey Zappi on the field in a Browns uniform at some point this year.
I was just going to say he must have done something to piss him off. I don't know if it.
Oh, for sure.
Because
I know, it's the most positive guy in the world.
Yeah.
And then how are you angry with that person at all?
yeah, so
He's
I
in
don't- I
something.
don't- Yeah,
What?
he's exactly. He's got.
He's been the backup all year long, and then mysteriously during warm-ups last week, they swapped backups to DTR, and then Watson suddenly gets hurt, and yeah, that's where it all went. But Jameis did come in at the end in the fourth quarter, probably I think it was about 4 minutes to go, and threw the only touchdown that the Browns got. And he threw some amazing balls too to lead up to that touchdown as well. They were pinpoint accurate, as you would expect from Jameis when he has been playing all year long. There was I think there was like one miss, and it was the way I saw it when I was looking at it. It's on the receiver. It was in a window between two defenders, and the receiver didn't even make an attempt to try and grab it, and it was right there, hands straight out in front of you, and you would have had a touchdown because it was in the end zone as well. So, and he threaded it straight between two defenders. It was great.
Is that Njoku?
I don't think it was Njoku. I can't remember. Anyway, that's the way I saw it. I was like, that's on the defender. I hate that those stats go to QBs, but that's on the defender, that one. On the wide receiver, sorry. And I hate that those stats go to QBs, those misses. Anyway, finally, backup / QB1 / former first round pick, Bryce Young is back starting for the Carolina Panthers this week due to Andy Dalton and his family being in a car accident earlier this week. Where it'd be interesting. They should be going back to Bryce Young anyway, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. The season's lost. What are you still playing Andy Dalton for? Just give the kid minutes. That's pretty much it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the only thing I think why you wouldn't give him minutes is if his psyche is so badly damaged. But he's had a pause now. I feel like he's had time to reset. This is kind of a litmus test for does he really have anything. You got to see some growth. If it's back to the Bryce Young of weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it was, then just cut your losses, trade him, get a 5th round, 6th round pick, and call it good. Because he's not going to do anything for you there in Carolina. So I agree. I think
they're playing against Bo Nix and the Broncos this week too. So
that's an interesting. Yeah, go.
I was going to say, can I throw out an idea as a way to properly try and get someone in there to help Bryce Young? I feel like Andy Dalton, he's been around, but if you were the Panthers, would you package Dalton and maybe like a 5th round pick and try and get Joe Flacco?
Oh, I don't know if they would do it. I don't know.
Because I feel like
I don't think the Colts would do it, to be honest, because they're relying so heavily on him at the moment because of Richardson. He's still coming into games even with Richardson starting. So
yeah, I don't think they would do it. Yeah, to be honest. I mean, I see why. I see what you're saying, and I think it makes sense from a Carolina perspective. But no, I just don't see them parting ways with Flacco.
Even though if they give up Dalton in the other direction, someone that can back up for them, I get that he's not as good. That's probably why you throw in the pick as a sweetener. But I think for Carolina, that there has to be an element of that they've got to be able to invest as much as they can into Young, because I don't know, I feel like if they cut their ties, if they get to the end of the year and Bryce Young's no good, they trade him for, like you said, a late round pick, right? Now it's probably not a draft class where QB's probably going to go number 1 this year. So if they do end up with a number 1 pick, do they trade down? Do they take a quarterback? What would they do? It's just another year of just going through, pain. Whereas I feel like if they bring in Flacco, they probably end up winning, I don't know, a handful of games, maybe less than a handful of games, like 4 or 5 games with Flacco on the Panthers. But at least then you get a year where you can actually, properly try and develop Young. And then you send out Young next year, and then it's like, if he doesn't work out then, it's like, okay, then we've got to cut ties.
I see why you would be saying it. I don't see, with the Colts currently sitting at 2nd in the South on 4 and 3, and a very important matchup this week, which we'll talk about later, against the Texans. I don't think that they would want to, because of the way the South is at the moment. They've got a good chance of possibly actually coming first in the South, and that's because of Flacco. But there are other guys still out there, and immediately the name off the top of my head would be Ryan Tannehill, if you really wanted to. Tannehill's no slouch. He wasn't amazing at the end of the Titans, but he's definitely a pretty functional quarterback. So, and he's just hanging out, doing nothing. I'm surprised he didn't get picked up for any of these other teams, to be honest. The Browns, for instance, or someone. Surprised they didn't go that way.
Yeah, I think it's got to be what I've heard is Tannehill wants to step in, start, and be the starter for the rest of the year, not just be a fill-in. And I don't know very many teams that'd be willing to do that.
Well, I certainly could be at the Browns at the moment with once QB1's gone, and DTR's not really that great, and Jameis is going to throw some picks at some point.
Some.
Yeah, some. He'll throw some TDs as well, but
Yeah.
they probably could have picked up someone like Tannehill, and he could have come in and start for him because Browns have still got hope as well, and that's the amazing part about that whole thing. Even though they are 1-6, it's just the rest of that division could eat itself, and you could just roll on home to second at least. Anyway, we're probably going on way too long on backup QBs. As interesting
quarterbacks.
as interesting as that is, it shows that on this show, if you get any one of us on a tangent, then all three of us end up on a tangent. Absolutely. Righto. How about we didn't get to do Gday earlier in the week. We didn't get to actually do an overreaction show. It all sort of went a bit haywire on me earlier in the week, and we didn't get to do that. So, and I should probably mention here, if you do want to do some work with us at any point, if you feel like you've listened to this podcast and you've got some strong opinions, or if you just want people to hear your voice, or you just want to talk some shit with someone once a week or about some NFL games, there is you are very much welcome to contact us, and you can get on an overreaction show with me, and we can go through those. If you've listened to those, hit us up on the socials for all that, and you can find all of our social media stuff at the Aussie Gridiron Network mothership. That is, of course, linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network, where you will find links to our socials as well as the rest of the AGN stable, Aussie NFL Fantasy, Manjot's Pastry Press, and much more fun stuff. You can also find links to our merch store and all sorts of cool stuff on there. So check out that linktree /Aussie Gridiron Network. And if you want to be on the pod, just let me know. We're always open to filling that other seat. So these boys don't have to do too much work, and we get to get more content out for you. And no one needs to listen to me waffle on like I just have been for the last 2 minutes. So let's get into some G'day AI and check out the top 5 storylines for this week.
NFL talking weekly buzz. Who's the best? Who's getting love? Top 5 stories, gotta say good day AI. Let's start the day.
All right, number 1 off the rank for G'day AI top storylines as they are right now. We are recording this week and from out of week 7, of course. Chiefs maintain undefeated streak amid a raft of injuries. Kansas City Chiefs continue to impress around the league as they remain the only undefeated team in the league at 6-0, despite facing significant injury challenges. Key players like Rashee Rice and Marquise Brown, all good old Hollywood sidelines. The Chiefs have shown a fair bit of resilience by adapting their gameplay week to week and relying on depth. And of course, we talked about at the top there, they have just signed DeAndre Hopkins to fill a fair bit of that depth. I don't know if we really need to say much more about the Chiefs, do we, boys?
Nah, it's just Chiefs being the Chiefs, man. It seems like it doesn't matter how mediocre they play. They find a way to win. So it's unreal.
I'll tell you what, there was a Chiefs-related mailbag overreaction that I didn't get to earlier in the week, and we can quickly touch on it if you want to. This one comes from Hamburglar. Steve Spagnuolo is more impactful for the Chiefs than Andy Reid. Thoughts?
I don't know if I'd go more. I could go for maybe as impactful, but I don't know if I would go for more. I understand the the comment, but and what he's done is ridiculous. I just love the fact that he's content being a DC. He just doesn't want to, run out there and all of a sudden be a head coach. I think
We need more of those guys.
absolutely
We
we
need
do.
more of those guys. And so,
Yeah.
Brad, what you're saying is it's a bit of a.
Overreacting. Overreacting.
Yes.
I've got to be able to use that drop at some point this week. Right out, number 2 for G'day AI. Lions established themselves as Super Bowl contenders. So, of course, the Detroit Lions made a very strong statement recently, and particularly with their very thrilling victory over the Minnesota Vikings. Their offense is firing on all cylinders, led, of course, by quarterback Jared Goff, who is having an amazing season the last few games.
Yeah, well, I thought they were already Super Bowl contenders, but nevertheless, all is true. Of course, they're absolutely rolling. And like we said, I think everyone, when we did our conference predictions, I think we all had the Lions at least making the Super Bowl, which just shows you how much we thought how well we thought the Lions would go. So, as I mean, we had said from early in the year, they've got just such a great roster throughout. What the impact of Hutchinson will be towards December and January is yet to be seen. But offensively, they're playing pass and catch at the moment. Like, Goff is just out there. He's got time. It's like playing in the park, literally, at the backyard.
Yeah.
They're just doing whatever, trick plays, yeah.
Yep.
It's unreal. I mean, that again, what did he start? 14 for 14? And
Yeah.
the week before it was 15 for 15 and then 13 for 13 before
I actually
that.
I think he went 17 for 17 at some point there, Brad,
Jeez.
before he lost one. But yeah, and it's speaking of guys like coordinators who should just stay as coordinators with a team. Ben Johnson, like, forget head coaching stuff because you could absolutely bomb out. But right now, you're running an offense that is firing. You've got the future already set because they're draft picks. They've drafted so well. They've built young team around him, around Goff.
Yeah.
Like, stay with the Lions. Stay with Dan Campbell. Like, it's amazing. I mean, you might be able to 5 years time you'd probably still be able to get a head coaching job because you've just obliterated the league for 5 years. So, who knows?
I think it depends because I feel like this year there's going to be some spots that maybe open up in terms of good spots where if you're coming in as a head coaching candidate, you might be okay with. Like, for example, the Bengals could be one. They could be a team where, you get to work with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. T. Higgins won't be there next year. But you've got a good offense to work with, and he can work with his side of the ball. The Jets are looking for someone, if they had someone better calling plays, a bit of creativity in that, potentially something better with a solid defense. So there are some spots. It just depends on where you land. Obviously, if you're going to end up at like Carolina or something, you're going to be kicking yourself. But
You really want to
it just depends.
You really want to land in the perfect situation because you don't want to go from what you are now. It's a bit of the Kevin O'Connell thing. Kevin O'Connell landed at the Vikings and it was the perfect situation for him because it was already a base to build on and he quickly built that base. So
Even
that's very much is.
No, I forgot to mention even Philly. Could be Philly. Like, how short is the leash for Nick Sirianni? So that could be a spot where it opens up.
Depends on how much of a fool he makes of himself for the rest of the year. All right. Number 3, Russell Wilson's impact on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson entered Acrisure Stadium on Sunday night to choruses of boos and Steelers fans chanting Justin Fields' name. But after throwing 264 yards and two TDs and helping George Pickens to a massive 5 catches for 111 yards, it was a very different tune by the end of the game. Mike Tomlin showing that he has a massive set of balls to overrule half of his staff and switch QBs after going 4-2 with Justin Fields. And Brad, you can only really say that
Mr. Unlimited
is back.
Steelers country, let's ride.
Peel back the steel curtain. Yeah, I don't know if you guys watched the game or whatever, but it was that second and third series. You could just hear the boos after they had 2, 3 and outs. You could just hear the boos just raining down. And I thought, oh my gosh, are we going to see him get pulled at halftime? That type of thing. But again, Tomlin stuck it out, and the dude caught fire.
Yeah.
And
In the
he was.
introductions, Brad, they were booing him. They were chanting Justin Fields, Justin Fields in the intro. But yes, he caught fire, and
He did. He did. And the thing is, it was his not just his ability, but it was also his willingness to throw those deep balls. And that's the thing with we saw with Fields is he wasn't throwing those deep balls. And it was really interesting on the TV broadcast. They were just talking about the difference between their balls.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, you laid that one up. Come on, that was that was wide open. The paint
Yeah, it
was open.
But it was.
You can't go anywhere now, can you?
Because how do I describe the fact that Russ's balls just drop in perfectly?
I reckon one's probably hairy, one's smooth. There's a difference there, Brad. And one of them is definitely blacker than the other. So, it's
Russ's just they teardrop in, whereas they were talking about Fields is just a bullet. He just hammers them.
these descriptions are even better now. Oh, this is amazing.
Mr. Unlimited.
And they could be unlimited.
They could be. That was an amazing piece of audio right there, Brad. Thank you very much for that. I lost my train of thought, and I had more points to make on that as well.
For the sake of time, do we want to move on to Saquon Barkley?
Yeah, well, let's move on to Saquon Barkley's revenge against the Giants. And what a revenge it was, Brad. He delivered an outstanding performance against his former team. And at one point, he was actually asked, he was like 3 yards away from his all-time high. And they said, do you want to go back out there? He says, no, I'm good. Let the young boys eat. I'm all good. Like, what a guy. He went out and just played the game. He wasn't trying to openly destroy the Giants, I don't think, but he just went out and did what was asked of him in that game, and that's just how it happened. The Giants couldn't stop a finger up a bum with a wet piece of tissue. So
I think it was definitely out for blood. He was definitely out for blood. Think of the stuff that he's been through with that organisation. He stuck it out specifically, got tagged, then held out for another year with them, and went through all that crap. They still didn't want to sign him, and then eventually they made the decision. They made the decision. Go back and watch that Hard Knocks. They made the decision.
Yeah,
We've got a $40 million quarterback. Why are we going to give 25 to a running back? Well, here's 17 carries for 180 yards. So I think there was definitely some purpose behind that.
Yeah. All right. Amari Cooper moved teams, and last week started for the Buffalo Bills. And his role in the AFC East race, which is getting very tight at the top end because of these teams. Oh, wait, no, it's not. The Buffalo Bills are at 5-2, and everyone else has only got 2 wins. But nevertheless, Amari Cooper has already begun to reshape the dynamics within the AFC East and the Buffalo Bills. Although it was pretty modest, he did end up with a TD and a pretty good chunk of yards as well. He was seen running some pretty good plays and even some audibles from Josh Allen that he had to take a few cues from rookie Keon Coleman on, and still ended up with that TD. And there is some pretty cool audio from Josh Allen that I heard through the week too. His mic'd up stuff where he was what do you call him? Amari Super Cooper. I think he was yelling out when he got that TD. So he's loving it. I think Josh Allen is loving having a guy there to throw the ball to.
Oh yeah, I mean, who wouldn't love having a guy who's an elite route runner and people didn't see it, they need to go back and look up and watch that touchdown, because like what you said, Ian, you can see they called an audible. The Amari doesn't know what to do. The rookie wide receiver, the
It's
X.
just run.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
run.
he
That's
just
what he
goes that
said
way.
to him. Just
He
go
Yeah,
that
that
way.
way.
He points where, tells them where to go.
I
So
know,
the defense knows.
and the defense still didn't stop him, Brad. That's what got me. He pointed and just told him, just go.
And it was
they
man
didn't even
coverage.
Yeah. Oh, I was like, how bad are you going to get when you're told where that player is going to run and you still can't stop them?
I mean, that's Pee Wee youth level football right there. That's not even high school. So it just go over there, and that's what he does. And so it was just it was unreal. So they are only going to get better. And Allen's got another great weapon. So it's And who would you rather have? Amari Cooper or Stephon Diggs? Diggs is washed up, man. He doesn't have anything left in the tank, and so now you've got Amari Cooper.
Overreacting.
Ooh, that's just, I don't know. I had to pull that one back a little bit.
Only because Nick's face. I saw Nick's face, Brad. I had to drop that.
Pull back a little bit.
I don't know, but he's been nowhere for the Texans, Nick, and we'll talk about that a bit later anyway.
He hasn't done anything.
We'll talk about the Texans later. Let's move on to 4 big games. 4 games we picked out that we want to watch this week, and 4 games we'll keep our eye on. And the first of those is actually the Buffalo Bills, who are riding a 2-game win streak and face off against the Seattle Seahawks in a very important matchup this week. More of an important one for the Seahawks than it is the Bills, I would feel. Josh Allen has performed historically well against NFC opponents, and both teams are looking to solidify their positions within respective divisions as they head into Week 8. Brad, current team form for the Buffalo Bills, they've been performing pretty damn well at 5-2, having won 2 consecutive games now. Their most recent loss was a pretty closely contested match against the Texans that they could have gone either way with for sure. But against the Seahawks here, you'd have to consider them a pretty solid favourite.
I don't know if I'd call him a solid favorite. I think I'm okay with calling him a favorite, definitely. But I think, and that's more because I think Seattle has started to get healthy now, and you saw it last week. They're starting to play better. They admittedly they did get a little bit lucky last week. They were outgained in yardage and first downs, but the fact that they forced 3 turnovers and a fumble return for a touchdown against the Falcons, that was the difference in the game. And what I think is the benefit to the Seahawks in this game, Nick knows how much I love Geno Smith. So I think the benefit is the Bills blitz at the league's lowest level. Geno Smith is really good in a clean pocket. So if their offensive line, and that's a big if, but if their offensive line can hold up and give Geno that clean pocket. Now, granted, they're not going to have Metcalf, so that is a huge, huge loss. But Kenneth Walker is playing just, the dude's a beast. Walker is a beast. To me, he's just playing as well as any running back in the NFL right now. So, and Buffalo has struggled a little bit against the run. So I think this is going to be closer than what people think. But Josh Allen, another week with Amari Cooper. So, I'm leaning Buffalo, but I would, with the spread being 3 points, I wouldn't mind taking the Seahawks with the spread or Buffalo straight up. I think that's how close I think it's going to be.
I didn't know that DK Metcalf was out. There you go. He's definitely out.
Well, that's what, as I heard this morning that he was going to be. So
Okay.
I'm not sure for if that's official or not, but
Because I don't know. Because to me, that might open up a little bit more for Buffalo to bring that pressure. Because looking at that, if Geno's quite good without that pressure, which you assume he would be, then it would be something that they would have to look at because they've missed so many guys on the back end, the Bills, they can't afford to be sending guys because they wouldn't be as good in man coverage. So potentially they should be bringing guys down this week because you would think that Kenneth Walker is going to be the focal point of the offense. And they'll probably, who they target, they've got Smith and Jigba and then Lockett on the other side. So
Yeah.
definitely a week where they'll be bringing guys, I think. But I think the flip side of that is, as you said, with the turnovers, that's been Buffalo's thing this year. They take the ball away and they don't give it back. Number one team in turnover differential. So if that continues, particularly into this game, I think that's going to be the difference. But if the Seahawks are able to, keep the ball, the Bills will try and control the clock. So I think that's why the spread is probably at that 3.5, and they'll try and run it because the Seahawks aren't as good against the run. But they're they're much better on the back end. So I think at 3.5, with the Bills being able to control the clock, and I think without Metcalf is going to be a bit of a loss. So I would side with going with the Bills 3.5. I'd feel a lot more comfortable if it was 2.5, but if I've got to pick a side, I'll go 3.5. Pretty much, I'll boil it down to, the Bills are going to take the ball away. They're going to keep the ball. They're going to run the clock. And they've got the better quarterback in this game.
Metcalf is or has reportedly got a grade 1 MCL sprain, and he didn't practice during the week. And right now they're going to see on Friday. Well, sorry, if he was going to practice on Friday, so that's and then kind of reevaluate as they go up to game time. So it's only a sprain, not a tear.
Okay.
So at the moment, if he's not practicing, it depends on how he comes out of the week. I think whether or not,
Yeah. Either way, he won't be 100%, but yeah.
Yep, exactly. All right, cool. I don't know. I'm still kind of leaning the Bills' way. I've got a bit of a bet with Amari Cooper again this week too. Thought I'd double down on that after last week, so I'm leaning the Bills' way. I like the spread at 3.5. I don't know. There's something that's just telling me about the Seahawks. I'm not sure on the Seahawks this year, and I don't know whether it's just because we just don't hear a lot out of the Seahawks. They're kind of flying under the radar a fair bit, and it could be that reason, maybe in me. I'm not 100% sure.
Number one in the division.
I know they are 4-3 in that division.
Yeah, not for
which is just amazing. That's only because you're playing the Cowboys, Nick. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm leaning the Bills' way though, and especially with that thread. I don't like 3.5. So spread wise, I'll go over on that anyway. Let's move on. Second game. I will stop carrying on. Eagles at Bengals. The Philly Eagles at 4-2 will face off against the 3-4 Cincinnati Bengals this week in Cincinnati. Matchup is pretty significant for both teams. They need to improve their standings, obviously, but also find some kind of momentum and continue that. The Bengals have recently found a little bit of momentum, winning their last 2 consecutive games. But, Nick, you could still say that they have, even with the win over the Browns, it was still kind of a challenging win. It doesn't seem like it was as easy as it should have been.
They haven't had a game this year where everything's worked all right. It's either been early in the year was defense can't make stops. And the defense has started to make some stops, and now it's like, well, the offense can't score. So, they struggled against the Giants and the Browns, which they should be able to take care of. And then early in the year, they couldn't stop anyone. So, this game, I think more of the focus to me is on the Eagles because, we assume a few things about the Eagles, but what are they? Are they better than what their record is? Just like how you are with the Seahawks this year, Ian, I feel that way about the Eagles. You don't know how to view them. 1 minute the coach is yelling at the fans, they're going to sack him. Jalen Hurts has got questions, and all of a sudden the defense is playing much better. It's just all over the shop. Right?
Yeah, it's weird because they've won the last 2, but all you hear out of them is negativity, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, and that's where the weirdness is, isn't it?
And I think a lot of that is because funny, both of these teams have played the same 2 teams the last 2 weeks, just in different orders. They played the Giants. They always beat the Giants. And then they played the Browns the week before, which everyone thought if they had lost that, Sirianni would have been gone. So I suppose it's just two games where they sort of went, yeah, so what? We sort of expected that. Whereas this week they go to Cincinnati. It's a proper game. So this is probably something where they look at it, and the Bengals have got a few outs still on the offensive line. So, that front four should be able to get some more pressure on Joe Burrow. So it's a really weird one to read. I don't know, Brad, but how do you read this game?
It is tough. It's close. I think what I found interesting, just as a complete aside, was that this was scheduled for the late afternoon kind of feature game, and it got flexed to the early morning game. That's how much little faith the NFL has in this game being a good game. I think the biggest thing to look for in this game is the fact that the Eagles left tackle Jordan. I'm going to butcher his name.
Mailata.
Okay, thank you. Jordan Mailata is hurt, and I don't think he's playing. So, and this happened in the last game. So they had the backup left tackle Fred Johnson come in, and he played 23 snaps or 23 pass rush snaps, and he gave up 4 pressures on that. 4 out of 23 is horrible for an NFL. So you factor in that he's just not doing well in passing downs, going up against Trey Hendrickson and
Yeah,
the Cincinnati defensive line who's gotten healthy. They were really banged up early in the season. Now they've gotten healthy, and I think Hendrickson could have a field day with this. So I think that Cincy defense, and plus I trust the Cincy secondary a lot more against Hurts than I do against the Philly secondary against Burrow. So Burrow's playing again lights out, I think, and so I'm leaning, even though I think what the Bengals have to give 2.5 points. I'm leaning towards the Bengals on this one.
I'm in a weird spot. I think I'm leaning towards the Eagles, and I think it's about the strength of the rushing attack on the Eagles versus the Bengals defensive the rush defense, which has been very poor. The Eagles currently ranked second in the league for rushing yards per game at 166.7. Bit of that got blown out in terms of an average last week because of Saquon Barkley against the Giants, but the Bengals defense has struggled against particularly strong rushing attacks. So I think I'm leaning that way because of that a bit more. And I wonder just whether the Philly defense can continue to show a bit more improvement. And I'm sort of leaning towards the Eagles.
Well, I think our whatever our views on it show just how close it is.
Yeah,
Then, so and hopefully it is a close game.
hopefully. Another big game that we hope is a close game this week. Colts at Texans. We spoke about it a little bit earlier as we foreshadowed what was going on. The Indianapolis Colts at 4-3 in a division, and second go to Houston to take on the Houston Texans, who are at 5-2, coming off a loss most recently. This is a very important matchup for the AFC as a whole. Colts are currently positioned as the number 6 seed in the AFC, even though it is a bit early to be talking about playoff season, I know. But this shapes up as a very important matchup for the AFC South as a whole, I would think, because both of these teams ending up at 5-3 records at the end of it if the Colts win. That could be very, very interesting for everybody.
Yeah, I think this game it's going to be a good game. It's a close game. It's essentially a battle for first place in that division. I think what's going to be telling is, has Anthony Richardson improved against the blitz, against the pass rush? Because he struggles in the best of times. He's got a really bad his completion rate is one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NFL. And then against the blitz, he's definitely the worst, and I think it's not even close. So if D'Amico Ryans is, he's going to just be dialing up that blitz against Richardson, and I think that could be the difference in the game. To Indy's benefit, their defense has been getting better and better every week. They're supposedly getting DeForest Buckner back this week, so they should be able to put some pressure on the Texans offense. And I don't know what you guys think, but I'm just not sold on this Texans offense. It's just not producing like I thought it would or like it did last year. So I'm just not, and I don't think it's Stroud's fault. It just doesn't seem to be. I don't know. The running game's not looking good. They get Joe Mixon back, but it's not gelling.
There's something not right. And Nick, you had some pretty strong feelings about Stephon Diggs earlier when Brad said that
When I threw him under the bus.
he threw him under the bus, under the proverbial bus, with an all-time overreaction from Brad. But Stroud only threw for 86 yards last week against the Packers. It just does seem like there is something wrong. Stephon Diggs hasn't been the player we thought he would be going into the Texans, especially with Nico Collins out now. Surely just Nico Collins going out isn't the problem here.
Well, I mean, considering, you look at Collins when he had, his handful of games so far this year, he was averaging well over, 100 yards a game. And he was producing at a very high level. So when you remove a guy like that, it's like, Philly, they lost AJ Brown and they just couldn't quite get over the top. It would be the same, with the Bengals, if they lost Jamar Chase, or, the Vikings with Justin Jefferson. Those guys, you just lack that guy that you can just go to. Diggs isn't, excuse me, Diggs isn't that guy anymore, because he is a bit older and he is a bit more banged up. So he does suit being a slot receiver well. He's had some solid games playing more on that slot. I feel like with the Colts, you've got Richardson. He'll have his 10 or 11 completions. And is it for 50 yards or is it for 220 yards? It's just
right.
And it's somewhere in between. Like, he's just got the weirdest stat line every week. And I've got him in a few fantasy teams. And, early in the year, his first game, he scored like 30 yards. Like, fuck, that's incredible. And it was against the Texans. And then it's just like games where he's scoring like 8, 5, and 10 or whatever. And it's just so weird. So, his processing as an actual passer, it's not very good. Like you said, Brad, if you're putting that pressure on him, he's not going to be able to process it that well. But if he actually has time to throw, there's half a chance he's going to make a throw that not many guys in this league could make. And that's why it was, the number 5 pick years ago.
Well, the fact they're getting Taylor back, I think should help. Hopefully, help them quite a bit.
100%. I like a little bit more of what the Colts have been defensively the last sort of few weeks. I think a lot of that has helped with them playing a few more softer teams, I suppose. The Dolphins without Tua, and I think they played the Titans as well, or the Jags, one of those two teams. So, I looked at the line. It's actually one of my picks later on. I feel like, okay, +6, it's a little bit too much. I don't sort of trust the Texans of what they're doing offensively. Like you said, Ian, they haven't looked the same. They have been running the ball, though. Like Mixon, the games that Mixon has played, he's played really well. He's up over 100 yards sort of each game.
The Colts have been the second worst team against the run.
They have been. So they'll probably do more of that this week.
And only eclipsed by the Carolina Panthers, marginally.
Yeah. So they've been doing more of that this week. So if Buckner plays, that will sort of help try to at least hinder that somewhat. But I think the Texans will win, but I think the Colts will cover at 6. I think 6 is quite a big margin because you sort of don't know what you're going to get from the Colts, at least offensively, because they could go well over the top or they could be like just so far. And I think with Richardson seeing a defense he's only recently saw early in the year, it's going to help with him to be able to know what he's going to get.
All right, let's move on. It's possibly the G'day Gridiron game of the week this week, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, so we can talk about it much more now. Cowboys at 49ers this week in a massive matchup for the NFC. Brad, you Cowboys. Do you two want to? How about we go one for each? You can talk about your team and the chances in this. Let's go that way. It's your teams, boys. You're on the clock. Don't make it too long. Let's not talk about it all night. How are we going to go, Brad? What are you 3-3 right now? The Cowboys.
Yes, we were 3-3. Yes.
So,
yes.
how do you think we're going to go against this mediocre 49ers team who are just decimated with injuries?
Well, we're 3-3 and about to be 3-4. Frankly, if I'm getting 4.5 points, though, I'm taking the Cowboys and 4.5 points because I think it's actually going to be a little bit closer than what people think. But I still think the Niners are going to win the game. It's just, and I know they're coming off a bye, and this is what I think is going to keep it close, is that the fact that the Cowboys did have a bye, and so they had a chance to rest up. If Micah Parsons comes back, that's a huge win, and it's gonna help them because I think they're gonna get Deron Bland. They're also their starting cornerback as well, and DeMarcus Overshawn, another linebacker, and I think they were without Kendricks as well, so they're getting a lot of guys back. But they're still mediocre. They're mediocre at best. So I don't have a ton of faith in them to win the game. I do have faith in them to keep it close. I think just there's too many holes on offense for the Cowboys with especially receiving. You got CD and what? Who else? Ferguson, the tight end, he's solid, but he doesn't scare anybody. So and beyond that, Cooks is a shell of himself. So and we all know their running game is just poo-poo. So it's just it's a frustrating game for me. So I am happy that I think it's going to be closer, but I'm not too amped up for it. Or if the expectations I had were different, like if I thought the Cowboys were a real contender, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, this will be great. I'm looking forward to it. And of course, then it'd probably end up like last year where they get beat by whatever,
Well, Nick, the 3-4 49ers, you're 4.5 point favourites in this game at home against this Cowboys team that Brad is trying to talk down so much.
Selling the house this time? Or?
No, definitely.
The old
Not the
headshot
house.
reverse jinx. That's what's going on here.
Yeah. I feel like this matchup is a little bit different to previous years because we have so many outs.
Yeah.
The thing that I envision the most, and I don't know why, is I can just see CD Lamb going for 100 yards. There's just something about this defense this year. I have no idea. Is it maybe because we've gotten so much older? We're missing guys. I've got no idea. I think maybe it's because we are getting that bit older. So I could definitely see CD Lamb probably having a big game.
Well, he had a big game though against them in the playoffs, and that didn't help.
It may be because of the defensive. It's probably because of the defensive coach too. Though.
No, fair enough. Offensively, I assume if we can run the ball still, which we should be able to, because Dallas's run defense is still not that great. Even if
that's what I'm
Parsons
talking about. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
And I'll be happy if the Cowboys decide, let's put Parsons on Trent Williams' side. If he can keep doing that, that's fine, because then he's got zero impact on the game. But if you put him on the other side, he's actually going to do something. He's actually going to get pressures because the right side of that line is horrendous. So if you want to keep him playing on Trent Williams' side, that's fine. Keep doing it all day. Like, you get nothing out of it, but sure, go for it. I think it is going to be close. I think it is going to be close. So I think I'm going to sit in a similar boat to Brad. I think it's actually going to be low scoring. Despite all of that, I do think it's going to be low scoring. So I am going to take the points, but I'm not going to lose the game. I can't go that far. It's that the matchup hasn't changed that much. But I do think it'll be a bit of a closer game.
Yeah, so you and I are in agreement.
Yeah, and I think the week off does help Dallas because they sort of just reset themselves and they'll probably be a lot better off the. And weirdly, they'd be better on the road than at home. I don't know. I feel like, we'd be the same. We've been better on the road than at home. So I sort of, if we can get this game in Dallas, maybe that might be better. So it's a bit weird.
Cowboys are 3-0 on the road, and 3 at home. So
Yep, that's true. I don't know how I feel about this game, to be honest. I don't like either team the way that they are right now. It just doesn't. Neither one makes sense. I know
they're shells of themselves.
Yeah, the 49ers. Yes, there's injuries, and the most recent one with Ayuk going out as well, and Debo having an illness and couldn't even play a game. That just threw everything out further, and you got more of a reliance on Brock Purdy, who he's been playing well, but is he playing well enough to carry this team? I don't think so. And then we talked about it last week, and we joked about it a fair bit, how it's just an RB factory, and they can just hit you on the ground, and that's been the Cowboys' weakness this year. Is their run defense has been atrocious, absolutely abysmal. They've just been getting run over by teams, and the Cowboys feel like to me that it's a team made up of stars with so much potential that can't figure out how to align everything together, align those stars together to make something of it. And that's both sides of the ball. And then both sides of the ball seem like they fight against each other, like they're not a unit. It's so bizarre, and it's just a shell. And like I hear you two talk about your teams every week, and they're talking about this, and I've never heard people talk about games. Like we joke about Cowboys fans and Cowboys teams, and but you always know that they'll win games. They're going to get somewhere near the playoffs, if not in the playoffs, and we always know that they'll fall on their ass at some point. But the 49ers the last few years have been an absolute juggernaut, and they've just fallen off completely, despite challenges. They've had challenges. The 49ers have had challenges like the Chiefs have had this year, and they've overcome them every other year. And so I just don't know how I feel about this game. I'm such a fence sitter in it. The 4.5 line to the 49ers makes me swing that way a little bit. Like I would take that line for the Cowboys. Like I'd go Cowboys with that 4.5 line, just because it could be either way. 4.5 is just that tiny bit too much. If it was 2.5 here, I'd probably have to really make a decision one way or the other. But I feel like I could easily run that line for Cowboys. Take the Cowboys at plus 4.5 and just roll with it. It's such a weird game.
This game to me is going to be kind of the defining moment in the season for Mike McCarthy. I think if the Cowboys come back and put up a good fight and just show heart and competitive, then I think McCarthy is probably going to be safe. But if they come out and just show no heart and no effort and end up getting beat by double digits, I would not be that surprised if Jerry pulls the trigger and says, "No, we're gonna elevate Zimmer, and then figure it out next year."
Yeah, if you come out of your bye with a heavy loss to an NFC favorite, big rival, then it's embarrassing after losing on Jerry's birthday at home. The whole thing's embarrassing from that point. So
particularly after a bye too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If it's after a bye, then I think that's just a huge signal that the team is lost.
I think that's going to be a reason why Dallas would come out as well. A lot of it psychologically, I think for us as well. I just know psychologically for us, yes, the injuries have piled up, but I just think that the way in which we went down last week is just sort of like we just go, for fuck's sake, man. And it's just like, it's a bit like, it's how I thought the Ravens... It's similar to how I thought the Ravens would sort of go for the rest of the year had they lost to the Chiefs in week 1, which they did, where they got that close to beating the Chiefs, and then they play them in week 1, and then they lose by literally that much, and then they go, for fuck's sake, man! Like it's just one of those games where you prepare for it for this long. You've got it circled in the calendar, and then just when just shit doesn't go right, and then there's just extra shit piled on top of it. It's just where it can just derail. So that's what I fear, because look at the Ravens. They lost to the fucking Raiders the week after. So it can happen.
Yeah. All right, let's get moving on. Anyone that has astute hearing will hear that Nick is going very downhill. This is Nick's flu week. It's his flu game. So let's get moving so big boy can get to bed and get some rest by the sound of it. We got one more thing for the week, boys. Something we always look forward to.
We're having a punt, having a slap, just having some fun and making some scratch. It's the Gday Gridiron's bloody best bets.
Yep. It's that time of the week where we get to take you through our best bets of the week. I might start off, boys. All 3 of mine this week relate to a game we have just talked about in amongst there, and I've picked out player prop bets. I haven't necessarily gone for lines like we talk about a bit, but I've gone for those player prop bets instead. As I said earlier, Amari Cooper did me a solid last week in that multi with Devontae Adams. He did me a salty. Did me a solid in my multi. Holy shit, a salty! I've just renamed something. Devontae Adams, however, didn't. But either way, Cooper got me the yards and the TD I needed. I'm really happy with that. So I'm doubling down on Amari this week with the Bills. 60 yards and a TD. Bring it home, Amari. Let's go strength to strength. I think I went 50 for him last week. We'll go 60 this week. The Eagles, I said it before, the Eagles rush against the Bengals rush defense. I'm taking Saquon with 100-plus rush and receiving yards against the Bengals. I think after that big week against the Giants, Saquon Barkley is riding high, and I think he'll be out to build on that, and especially against a very poor Bengals rush defense. Also, someone coming up against a poor rush defense after having a very big week on the ground. Joe Mixon got 115 and 2 TDs last week. So I'm going to go Joe Mixon, 100-plus rush and a TD against the Colts, who, as I said earlier, are the second worst rush defense in the league. So I'm feeling pretty confident that I can go 3 for 3 finally this week after hitting 1s and 2s the last few. Nick, how you feeling? You want to get through yours quick while you still can?
I actually just made a late change to one of mine.
A late change? It's a scratching.
Change.
We've had a scratching.
I've made a late change. Yes.
Okay.
So, most importantly, 3-0 last week finally got there. 13-5 on the season. So, Brad, check the math, over 70%. I think that's just over 70% now.
Hey, you're doing better than some of the big betters, mate.
That is seriously impressive.
Again, just come back to in a few weeks. Downhill from this week, but no one off. No more negative talk. 3-0 again this week, back to back. So, for 6-0 the last 2 weeks. So, we spoke about this in the green room before we had come on. Lots and lots of dogs this week that you go, looks solid. As previously mentioned, Indy +6 at Houston. I think the line is a little bit too big. Like we said, I think Richardson seeing the same team again is going to help a little bit more with his processing. Maybe it's going to be one of his 10 completions, 220 yards sort of games. They'll be able to maybe run the ball a bit more with Taylor as well. And hopefully defensively they should be better if Buckner comes back, particularly up front. They need to do something about Mixon. So +6, I think Houston still win, but give me the points with that one. Another one, I think this one's got a backdoor cover written all over it. Cleveland +9 at home against Baltimore. Baltimore coming from Tampa Bay and getting the less day for rest as they played on the Monday night. So I think Baltimore probably get out early. And as we've seen sort of the last few weeks, they do tend to concede a lot of points and a lot of yards in the last quarter, particularly because they were up by, I think, 3 scores, and they only won by, I think, 10 in the end last week. I think Cleveland, with Winston, looks to be a bit more fluid, at least in that last quarter, as opposed to Deshaun Watson. Another game for Nick Chubb. Should be able to run the ball a little bit better. And against this Baltimore secondary that struggled, this should be something where, they don't know what they're going to get out of Winston, so it could be one of those games where they're up by, a couple of touchdowns and then they score one late. The Browns has got that sort of vibe to it, particularly in Cleveland. And lastly, this was the late change. And I've got to go with it because I'm in the mood for it, and we've got no receivers, so we've got no one else to throw to. George Kittle, anytime touchdown. He scored 3 touchdowns last time. He had the Fuck Dallas t-shirt. He's going to fire it back up again. Another 3-0 week. Fire it up.
Here we go.
I love it. And seriously, that is really good. 13-5. I haven't kept track of my bets, so I'm not sure how I've done.
I've tried not to go. I know you like to do the alternate sort of stuff, Brad, but I feel like you're sort of cheating with it a bit there. So you've got to at least make it where the odds are like, almost 50-50.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep. Mm-hmm. No, I get that. I definitely am cheating because I just want the odds in my favor. But that's on my personal bets. On these bets, I try not to do that just because it gets too complicated.
Mm. Brad, we started out with some fun police there, and I wondered where you were going to go. But I see you with your DAC 36 pass attempts. Just because you say over doesn't mean it's not a fun police pick there, Brad. Because you're just saying that he's going to throw the shit out of the ball to be able to do something. That's all that's going on here. I want to chuck one more in, actually. I want to chuck one more into mine. I was just going through the slate of games, and I'm just going to chuck one more in. He got it easily last week, and I don't know why I didn't go with a Baker Mayfield pick earlier, but I'm going Baker 250 plus passing and a TD against the Falcons because
And when I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
Dangerous.
it is.
But
It is
can he do
Baker
it?
Mayfield.
Can he do it without Evans and Godwin?
Yes, Kate Otten. Kate Otten, my God, Kate Otten.
Yes.
Put
I just-
everything you've got on Kate Otten this week. The
love
car should be on
love
Kate
it.
Otten for. No, I wouldn't go the car on Kate Otten. But in terms of tight ends who have had a very poor year, Kate Otten had a blinder of a game, and that really helped out as well. So, he's going to have. He'll have some guys to throw to, and that's why I thought it was probably a bit riskier. But
And if you haven't seen the Godwin ankle dislocation, don't watch it.
Don't watch
it's
it.
pretty yuck.
It's
pretty yuck.
gross. It's right up there with the Dak ankle dislocation.
And,
So.
I mean, if you do want to see what a classic hip drop tackle actually looks like now, though, that's exactly what it looks like, that one. And that is exactly why they're trying to get that particular play out of the game, because it was pull down player, all of weight, straight down on leg and ankle, and yuck from that point.
Yeah, don't watch it.
It was definitely facing the way that it was not intended to be when we were made out of the mold. So, All right, boys, great bets. I love some bets. I can see us going. I was going to say 9 for 9. 9-0 this week, but
9-0.
it's 10-0 now because I chucked in the
10.
extra one just to round it up. No one likes an uneven number. 10-0. That's going to be us as Gday Gridiron this week. Of course, betting information on Gday Gridiron is provided for informational and entertainment purposes only. There are no guarantees that any of the tips we provide above will provide success or profit. All sports tips provided are our opinions, and punters are always encouraged to use this information in order to form their own opinion about the outcome of a sporting event. Bet at your own risk, and please always consider what you could lose before placing any bet. Boys, it's been a fantastic week of football in week 7. That's been a fantastic chat. Loved all of it. And you know what? I'm actually really looking forward to a few really, really good games this week. What about you, Brad? Are you looking forward to this big week? I know you work.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, man, if
When you're up 10 hours.
if football's on, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh,
Yeah. So, Nick, I know you will be. I'm not going to make you talk. It's okay.
It's just sign language.
This is like me a few weeks ago when you two had to really take over for me. This is where we're at right now. All good. Of course, check out all of our socials and everything to do with AGN and all the socials at our mothership, Linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. Make sure you check out the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show and Manjot's Aussie Gridiron Today, which you will find on the same feed, or you can also find everything, all the shows, at YouTube at Pastry Press NFL right now. They all double up back over there. We're getting some pretty cool views and some good information and comments coming back about all of the shows that go on the AGN. Of course, I said check it out on that mothership and that link tree for all our social links and some awesome merch where new stuff is getting added all the time. We're going to have to add some new stuff as we go through the season. Maybe we might add something around best bets or something. I don't know. We'll do something crazy. But we'll add something. On behalf of the boys, so Nick, Brad, and of course myself, thank you very much for listening to G'day Gridiron, and hopefully we'll see you on the other side of week 8 with some amazing overreactions from around the league. See you later.
The G'day Gridiron podcast is brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network, a network of gridiron content made by Australians for Australians. Check out our other programs, the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show, No Huddle Dynasty, and Pastry Press NFL. And don't forget to like and follow us and the whole of the Aussie Gridiron Network on Instagram, Facebook, and Pastry Press on YouTube.